Alright, so as you can tell by the title of the video and from what's currently on my screen, I'm going to watch some Nioh 3 gameplay a little before you buy kind of thing, because I've been thinking about getting it for some time now, but I'm not really sure if I want to. The thing is, the game has like lots of mixed reviews, so I played Nioh 2, and I watched Nioh 1. I never actually finished Nioh 2, and I didn't even finish the gameplay through Nioh 1, but it is an enjoyable game, at least from the experience I had. I like the story, I like the concept of yokai and the yokai shifts. I want to play Nioh 3 because it's new. It'd be a nice way to anchor into the other games. If you guys like me playing Nioh 3, then I would obviously play Nioh 1 and Nioh 2. At least Nioh 2, because I do low-key want to finish that for my own purposes. But ultimately, it just seemed like a fun game, especially like a nice Souls game. You don't really get a lot of good Souls games these days. In my opinion, Elden Ring was one of the only ones, and even then, I had my quarrels with that game, especially the DLC that came out. The DLC was bullshit. But Nioh 2, in my experience, was one of the few games that were Souls-like that I would actually consider like fair and playable. So here we are. We're just gonna see how this goes. Yeah, Gameranx, they're good. I'm not copyright. I hope I don't get fucking copyrighted for this shit.
Other than taking open world deviation with Rise of the Ronin, all of their games up to and including the core Nioh titles are pretty much the same formula. Wolong had the step parry, Stranger Paradise had job classes.
Okay, so the combat style is pretty much the same, but there are some different
alterations here and there.
Like,
it was pretty much
if you see this bar down here, this was never in Nioh 1 or Nioh 2. I know this is yokai shift, but the yokai shifts were usually kept up here. So
with this third entry,
I guess this is all just health and stamina
innovation. And all it took was a little game called Elden Ring to make it happen. We've now seen 2 Souls series come out only a week apart that have been heavily influenced by that game. But right from the start, I can tell you that Nioh does it a lot better. Like a lot better. I don't just mean the Elden Ring stuff either. I mean Nioh 3 is an improvement in just about every single way. Nioh 3 is one of those games that just feels really good to play. You can really feel Team Ninja's experience with action games working in this series.
Nioh in general is just a very good
so
game
responsive.
To play.
Combat is it's buttery freaking smooth, guys. The overload of like systems and submenus, it's still there. I cannot imagine how confusing this is for somebody who has never played a Nioh game. Like they throw so much stuff at you from minute one, but that's what you're getting with these games. If you like it or not, it's there. I think sometimes the game is working despite these things, and sometimes it's actually working because of them. But it's working.
Yeah. I'd say that. Nioh's always been a good game.
That's the important part. As usual with this series, it's a game of 2 parts, super intense combat, broken up by a lot of futzing around in menus, and making a lot of necessary but ultimately minor stat adjustments to your character.
What I'll say about Nioh, I wouldn't consider it the most intense game. I never really found it to be intense. Not like Elden Ring. Like, playing Elden Ring, that game was like a fight for your life. Almost any and all interactions was a pain in the ass. Like, fighting a normal minion or like a normal mob was stressful. This game I wouldn't say is that level, but it can be if you're stupid or if you underestimate it, yes, but if you play the game the way you're supposed to, I wouldn't say it's that intense.
Well, there's so many separate upgrade menus.
Okay, this is based off of my experience
which
in
you constantly
Nioh 2.
do need to check back in on because you're collecting tons of loot. That's just common in this game at this point. That feels mostly unchanged. The needlessly complicated character building is just something you either jive with or you have to get over to enjoy the Nioh series. For my part, I don't normally like it, but for whatever reason I like it in Nioh. It might be that it feels more rewarding here than in not just other Souls-likes, but other games. Like, it makes these games different from your average Souls-like, of course. Still, I can even understand why people complain about it. On average, you're spending a lot more time doing menu busy work in this than in any other Souls-like, period. And Nioh 3 doesn't do anything to change that. But when it comes to the actual
this game is so character building, bro. It's so annoying. It actually
the semi-open world is a big...
Me personally, I don't like all that. I don't like that variety because then I spend too much time trying to pick the right thing. But I will say, the customization adds a lot of avenue for. I don't know. Like, can you see it here? Okay, so I don't know if you guys can tell, but he has 2 weapons. Right there. This game, one of the things about this game is that it lets you pick multiple weapons at once. It's really just 2. The bow and arrow, I think, is a completely separate one, but I could be wrong. In which, if it is, that would count as 3 technically in its own right. But for the most part, it's just 2 weapons. The thing is, the weapons in this game it's not just about which one you like more, in which I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of what I was on for the most part, but it's also just a matter of like, the fighting style could definitely, I wouldn't say make or break it, but let's just say every weapon had its merits, in my opinion. Personally, I was a huge fan of the Tonfas in Nioh 2. But The Tonfa is
an
in the
entire alternate
Odachi.
play style you can switch to with the press of a button. The ninja style. I mean, it has me thinking of freaking Yakuza here. I know there's other games.
Yeah, wait, so if you see right here, 2 weapons, right? Okay, so the longbow is not its own weapon in its own right, so you can only have 2, yeah, not the bow as like a third, but yeah, you could have 2 weapons, so it's a little annoying with the
that do that,
selection.
But that's what I associate
And you
with
can
that
see
with, and
all of
frankly,
this
it fits
stuff
in
here.
very well here.
Like,
Also, being able
character
to jump around is
customization
fun.
could
Makes the
actually
levels more
take
interesting.
you
The bosses are some of the best in the
an
series.
hour
I've
or
always had a
something
soft spot for Nioh. I think they're probably one of the better subgenres of Souls. Like now we have subgenres. Now we have subgenres of Souls. Like just a matter of a couple years ago, people were like, "You say Souls like so much," and it's like there's so many of them that you need to say more words to distinguish what the hell you're saying. Anyway, tangent aside, I think this is very possibly going to be the best one yet of the Nioh series. At least that's my impression so far. This is, of course, a first impressions video. It is not a full review. I have not completed the game yet. I can't call this 100% definitive, but at this point, what
Ooh,
I've
that was
played,
clean.
I have to say I'd recommend it. Like, it's hard for me to imagine it going downhill to a point where it's not worth it anymore. I think fans of the series are gonna love it. It's like I said, I think it's the best of the 3. But just fans of Souls-likes in general or challenging action RPGs, it's really good. Again, possibly the best Nioh, and therefore the best Team Ninja Souls-like.
It looks a lot
It does have its fair
crispier,
share of
too.
flaws, but they're not the
So
kinds of
much
flaws
better.
you can't ignore. The game is so much fun
And
to
the sprite
play.
animation
It doesn't
is
really
fun.
matter.
I like
and
the
believe it or
camera,
not,
like
the
the
PC
camera
version
view
is actually
is
well
usually like a
optimized, which is
top
not
view,
something
but now it
I
feels more
expected
like a
in the
open
least.
world, like
So if your
GTA
primary
type
concern
of view.
is
It's really
if they
cool.
screwed up, put those worries to rest. The game is
Oh,
the
the
real
Tonfas,
deal. It is
yeah,
the
so
opposite of
if
screwing
you guys
up.
see right
It's
there, the
screwing
Tonfas
down.
were
I don't know. That may
my
not be
favorite
it.
weapon
If
in the
that's the
game. I love
opposite,
them.
then it's that. If
They're
not,
so
it's just a
efficient.
really good game. It's been a while since the second game too. So if you're unfamiliar with the Nioh series, just a quick summary. It is, of course.
Oh wait, what the fuck? I didn't know fine shit came back in Nioh 3. Hold on. I know she was in Nioh 1, not Nioh 3. What
So if you're
the
unfamiliar
fuck?
with the Nioh series, just a quick summary. It is, of course, a Souls-like. It's set in a historical Japanese setting. There are real-world figures in here, but don't expect to learn anything. I don't know if you consider learning historical things while playing video games a good thing or a bad thing, but that's not happening here. It is not designed to teach you things. I think the historical stuff just helps it be easier to fill things out, and nice little bonus for people who already know the stuff. Of course, there's
How you
random
gonna hurt
loot
fine
that is
shit?
divisive, but I mean, it's there. That's a fundamental component of the Nioh-like formula. In the old games, there's a very linear structure. You are generally going level to level. That is, of course, not the case here, but I'm just explaining the series. The plot's totally incoherent. The stats are crunchy. The boss fights are the highlights.
That was
At least
cool.
if they're not a difficulty spike boss, then they're just going to block your progress and you're just going to get mad. But if you channel that rage, you will harness an incredible power. The series is known for the complexity of its combat mechanics. There's 3 different stances. Every weapon has its own unique skill tree,
And that
special
is
moves,
annoying.
mechanics. It's all
I hope you guys can hear this well. I'm not gonna lie, my audio is personally shit. But yeah, the fighting mechanics in this game I think are annoying as fuck. I just like one of the things about Elden Ring that I liked is that everything was very straightforward. Like you didn't have an assortment of combos you had to do. It wasn't really. I don't know, Elden Ring in general. What I'll say is that this game actually seems like it could be based on skill somewhat. Elden Ring is not a game I would consider skill based. I'd consider it stat based. I'd consider it power based. Like whatever you just so happen to have on you that works. Like if you had, like let's say you did a PvP Elden Ring. If you had better armor or better weapons, you'd win. Like regardless of the skill difference. Like I know there's one guy. We and I used to be good friends. He and I used to be good friends. If you know the Moonlight Blade, in which you pretty much just did a Getsuga Tensho in Elden Ring, it was a katana. I pretty much spammed that against him and beat him every time. I ain't gonna lie to you. Yeah, and just the fights in general, like, I don't think it's much of an achievement when everyone's like, oh, I beat Melania, oh, I beat Radon, this and that, because it's like, how many tries did that take you? Like, you'll see that people are doing this shit for hours and hours and hours and hours on end. And it's like, yeah, you beat it eventually because you figured out the pattern. Honestly, I'd be more concerned if you didn't, because that tells me you're not learning, you're not adapting, which means, like, you're missing the cognitive process that the game is trying to invoke in you, you know? Like, that just tells me you're not doing, you know what I mean? So, I just wouldn't consider, as opposed to, but then there's also the fact that if you use summons, I use summons in Elden Ring, I won't lie to you. I don't have the patience to sit there on a boss for, like, 3 hours straight. No, I'm not doing this shit. I don't give a fuck. Unless I'm doing it for money, or I'm doing it for a specific challenge or like speedrun or something. Otherwise, no, I'm not doing that. But I will also admit, if you're using summons, I'm not going to say it's not a real win, but it's certainly not as impressive as doing it on your own. But doing it on your own is only impressive if you do it with a reasonable amount of tries, not you've been fighting Radon and fucking Mikula for 12 hours straight in a single stream. You know what I mean? That's kind of just sad.
Here, and there's this ubiquitous.
But yeah, like I said, Elden Ring, I wouldn't consider it skill-based. It's just same shit over and over again. This game, skill-based might be a stretch, but definitely more than Elden Ring for sure.
This key pulse ability is essential for keeping your stamina bar filled.
Elden Ring, you can get away with being dumb sometimes, just as they can get some dumb hits off you a lot of times. This is not a game in which I'd say you could get away with being dumb. Like, you can, but you'll still get punished for it. What I mean by get away, you're not going to die, but you will get hit.
There's special guardian spirits, there's living weapon attacks. Nioh 3 has all of this and more, and they add in a third strong attack ability that recharges when performing attacks. So at any given moment, you have 3 separate skills recharging that you can unleash at any moment. The third game rolls back a little bit of the complexity of the weapon skill trees in an attempt to simplify things, but I wouldn't call it a full-throated attempt at streamlining the weapon skill trees. It is a little simpler. Point is, game has a ton of depth to the basic combat, and even more with the addition of the ninja stance, which has its own weapons, armor, skills, everything, and being able to switch to it instantly gives you so many options when it comes to engaging.
That's always satisfying.
That I could see it be overwhelming for certain people, particularly people new to the series.
I wonder what
I would call this a big issue if Nioh 3 tossed you in the deep end right from the start, but for a Souls-like, this is probably one of the most forgiving in the opening hours. And in general, I would say that...
Because from what I remember, in the first game, yokai shifts weren't a thing. I believe you could summon their power, but I don't believe actual yokai shifts were a thing. Nioh 2 yokai shifts were, which was really cool. But you see, burst break, time RT style shift with that referencing yokai shift. That's what these things are. These are yokai, and they're almost like you're charging an ult meter or something like that. When this thing is completely full, at least how it worked in Nioh 2, you would be able to yokai shift. Though I'm not. And yokai shift is essentially you merging with your yokai to become like some battle beast. Or like, it's like a really cool transformation, but I'm not sure if that's how it works in this game.
Nioh 3 is probably the easiest game in the trilogy so far. Like I said, I haven't beaten it yet, but the boss encounters, I would say the hardest one was actually the first one.
I've yet
and that
to
was partly
see him
because I was still adjusting the
shift.
mechanics, figuring out timing, particularly on the boss counter mechanic. It's not another parry-heavy Sekiro game. The only real counters you need to learn are the ones where your enemy glows red. They're heavily telegraphed. They give you the biggest bonuses for hitting them. And while the game does have parry mechanics, they're not really as essential as a lot of post-Sekiro Souls-likes and their
wait, so yeah, as you can see right here, that's the yokai shift meter, it like filled up. But I'm just wondering what he's gonna turn into. What is this yokai?
They're not...
Jakotsu Baba. No, I gotta see that. Hold on. Jakotsu Baba. Yokai. Is a scary old hag and shaman. Yeah, I could recognize that. Like, it looked like it was snakes. It looked like it was snakes. Scary old hag and shaman was the pattern control. She's carrying a blue snake in her right hand and a red snake in her left. Very little is recorded. Snake Mound. It's not clear whether it's yokai. According to the second long ago, there was an important man of Bukan named who lived in a place known as the Snake Mound. His wife was known as Jagoba. Over time, her name was corrupted into Jakotsu Baba. Although it was used as a vulgar slang word for an old woman rather than a yokai or shaman. Sometimes the same way. Oh, Seiken may just have taken a popular buzzword of his time, transformed into a yokai and attached a simple backstory to it. Huh. I mean, y'all can pause this and look at it if you want. That's interesting. So, wait. Carrying a blue snake in her right, red in her left. Let's see. There's a red. Where's the blue? I mean, I think you're the blue and you're the red.
Really is.
Oh, it's on neither one of them. They're just coming out of her back. Okay.
Essential as a lot.
Oh, but you can't see. This is her right side. The red is on her left. Okay. So she's not carrying them, but they are there. And this is the blue one's completely made out of skeletons. So it's not even like a blue snake. It's more like a bony snake with a silver bluish hue, like a glow. That's kind of cool.
Sekiro Souls-likes and their parries. Don't get me wrong, though, bosses are tough. They're fast, they're often relentless, but this game gives you a lot of tools that do make things easier. Co-op is still an option, but now you can also summon NPCs of other players to assist you with fights, and bosses either don't scale or scale very little when you bring in some help. So the fights are generally not too bad. The game gives you a lot that you can do before even fighting them. Like, you're never forced to stop and grind before a boss to play catch-up, because in Nioh 3 you can just go and do something else. Which brings us to the biggest change, the open world. Between the more linear segments of the game, which, I mean, there are still a lot of, so if you're less enthusiastic about open world stuff, don't worry, it's not a big change to the Nioh formula outside of sort of the connective tissue of it and, you know, other stuff to do. Like, it never goes full Elden Ring. It's more like there's 4 large, non-linear levels to explore with some Ubisoft-style points of interest to check out. The levels are small enough to still feel carefully designed with little secrets and optional routes to go down, but open enough that you can tackle them from multiple angles. There is a little bit of repetitive open world stuff. I'm not going to say there isn't. Like, there is straight-up outposts full of enemies that you will need to clear out, but being able to sneak around stabbing guys Assassin's Creed style, it's pretty refreshing in this game. The open world activities actually help break things up in a way that I appreciate. Like, I'm not saying they're like substantially better than other games. They're just contextualized with better stuff. Like, they feel, again, maybe a little more satisfying just because contextually, like, they're part of something bigger instead of something satisfying just because contextually, like, they're part of something. They're just contextualized with better stuff. Like, they feel, again, maybe a little more satisfying.
And then he gets snuck right after.
They're part of something bigger instead of something smaller is attached to those things to pad out the playtime, if that makes sense. There's also mini objectives, target shooting, chasing catball yokai, and the occasional enemy gauntlet. But it's fun, and these things reward you for completing stuff. And, like, the rewards are worth the effort. These more open levels are, I would say, a pretty major contributing factor for why Nioh 3 is the easiest game in the series. They allow you to far outpace the recommended level at any given time. And this being Nioh, where your level and the quality of your equipment can make a huge difference, being able to outlevel the main story quest before you get to them turns even the most intimidating bosses into chumps. Like, if you do that, they're bozos, they're jabronis. Just imagine any amazing insult. That's what the bosses turn into. Of course, it's totally up to you whether you decide to do that. If you clear out the more open levels, you will make things easier for yourself. Or if you barrel on underprepared and underleveled, like, it's refreshing. The option is there, honestly. Some people like it one way, some people like it the other. And some people like both. I'm not even complaining. One of the things I like about the absolute best Souls-likes is that they do give you the option. You can go do something else if the path gets too difficult. As much as I do appreciate a good challenge, it's nice to at least know there's another option available, so if you don't want to slam your head against a brick wall to just push past a boss fight, blocking your progress, you don't have to. Now, I'm not telling you this is an easy game, it just gives you options.
Does it have
I think that's the way to
shifts?
go, in my book, pretty much every time. As usual with these games.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting concerned. I haven't seen a single yokai shift, or I've seen a couple yokai parries, but that's it. You haven't
As you
shifted
progress
yet.
to the stages, they generally get easier, and you unlock more healing and more skill mastery. And I mean, the stages are usually pretty easy. The bosses remain the real challenge. Still, one thing I have to give to Nioh 3 is that at least so far, the variety of enemies is a really big improvement over past entries. The most disappointing thing about the series is they tend to run out of new enemies by around the halfway point. Second half of the game has you slogging through it all like with like old bad guys, small selection. Nioh 3 so far seems to have a lot more monsters to help keep combat fresh. Level design surprised me too. It's easily some of the series best. These games never had bad levels, but they can't
take out bland, but it got repetitive.
Mostly still the same villages, caves, castles we've come to expect, but the time travel gimmick allows a much greater diversity of locations to explore from, and the different time periods actually feel different. There seems to be a pretty concerted effort to make every major location feel unique and distinct, and it's really hard not to appreciate that because it goes a long way. When it comes to evoking feelings of mystery and discovery, it's nothing like Elden Ring, but that's not what they're going for here. It's a satisfying loop. Finding a chest or uncovering a hidden Kodama, that extends your healing capacity, that kind of thing. Most of the loot is random, but some of the static rewards that you get are still pretty good. Any of the items you use to unlock new samurai or ninja skills are really satisfying. They feel good when you come across them. Oh, and it all looks really good. Like, you've been looking at it this whole time, and I'm sure you've observed. It's not like these are cutting-edge games. Nioh 3 is not the bleeding edge of technological prowess, but like previous entries, it looks good without being particularly flashy. It's good art design, good level design, everything gels very well. The important thing, though, is the performance, and in my experience, it has been absolutely excellent, even on PC, which...
That's the reason I even watched this in the first place, because everyone's been telling me the performance... Not everyone's been telling me. I say that like I'm talking to people about this, but I like, look at Reddits. What the hell is that noise? I live in an apartment, that's why. Well, I'm looking at Reddits and certain TikToks, YouTube, other YouTube videos even, and I'm looking at it. I even went online, like on an online site. I think it was Gameranx or Screen Rant. Maybe it was CBR, I don't know. But everyone's saying that the game runs terribly, and they're just like, I can't believe I paid $70 and the game can't even run smoothly. So that's why I was concerned about it. But based on what I'm seeing, I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm just gonna get the game and play it alongside Nier Automata.
Which is how I've primarily been playing it. The Nioh series is the series Koei Tecmo probably puts the most work into. There are other games like Strangers of Paradise, Wolong, and Rise of Ronin can look kind of cheap compared to this game with some ugly texture work, some bad lighting, a little bit of lazy environmental design, but this game is just solid across the board. The open world segments pretty much look great. Like, character models look great. That's standard at this point for the series. The character creator also gives you a ton of options. Not quite as robust as Code Vein 2's, but very few character creators are that robust. If you're hoping they'd finally attempt to tell a story that makes sense, that is probably going to lead to disappointment, but I mean, I wasn't. The story's complete nonsense. It's impossible to follow if you're not already at least passively familiar with Japanese history. Like I said, it's more of a bonus for people who already know it, rather than something that's going to help you learn.
Not even gonna lie to you, he's so right. The stories is hard to follow. Like, I wouldn't even make sense of it. But I'm gonna go back because I think I just got my answer.
Japanese history. Like I said, it's more.
So that's him.
Bonus.
And then he switches.
For people who already know it, rather than.
Is that his yokai shift? That's lame. I don't fuck with that.
I mean, it's not going to help you at all in terms of narrative. Like, it's crazy. And then you throw in time travel. I mean, it makes the story very disjointed and completely incoherent, but it doesn't matter. Like, the plot is kind of, it's there to have the aesthetic of having a plot. Like, I'm glad it's there. I don't need to understand it. It serves a function and it serves it well. I don't ever feel like the game needs to be better in that area. And also, ultimately, another evil yokai is causing trouble and you have to stop him. Like, it's got the depth of a Legend of Zelda story, except for there's a lot more characters and cutscenes, and they try to act like it's not that. I mean, I don't want to call a Zelda story shallow, but like, it's certainly not deep. A Zelda story is economical. This is, I mean, it has the same amount of story, but it has a lot more narrative. Does that make sense? Doesn't
I agree.
matter. I'm only describing it because I'm trying to tell you as much as I can about the game. It is not something that interferes with my enjoyment of it, nor is it something that I really honestly care a lot about. This is, I mean, up till this point, very possibly the best game in the series. And that means it's very much a Nioh game. It's a better Nioh game, but it's very much a Nioh game. That the incoherent story, you might love or hate the random loot. You might like the end game where the loot matters. You might not. I'm not going to tell you the loot gets interesting during the main game. I have not seen it get interesting during the main game. So if you hate that system, the loot system, I mean, there's nothing here to change your mind. The variety of weapons, though, is fantastic. There's so many ways to build a character that are...
I think that's annoying, bro. There's so many weapons to choose from. I find it annoying.
satisfying. Mechanically, the series has just never been better. The level design, again, some of the series' best as well. Boss fights are excellent across the board. There's the usual few that aren't that great, or at least go by quickly. And the ones that are great are intense, thrilling, or satisfying when you finally beat them. While there are no difficulty options, you have more options than ever to make things as difficult or relatively easy as you want, which makes this probably the most approachable Nioh game so far. It's tough, and mechanically it's pretty complex, but as long as you're willing to engage with it, no challenge is insurmountable. Nioh 3 is a big step up for the series. It makes a lot of major changes to the formula, and it doesn't lose the series identity. It's a big step up for the series. Maybe for some, it's maybe a not big enough deviation from the norm. The loot system is, like I said, it's exactly the same as the others, and that's going to be a problem for people who absolutely hate it. But everything else about this game, for me, is a really big confident step forward for the franchise and Team Ninja alike. What do you think, though? Leave us a comment.
I mean, I think the game I think based on what I was seeing, the game looked pretty good. I'm gonna look up, does Nioh 3 have yokai shifts? Because that's honestly a concern to me, because I loved it. The yokai shifts is one of the reasons I enjoyed Nioh 2 so much. We have yokai shift, please. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there is no... living weapon mechanic, but I don't... So it's just magical armor, so that's what it was in the thing where he switched. Okay, so... yeah, right here when he did that.
For people who already know it, rather than something...
This is the yokai shift. Okay. I'm not sure how I feel about that, to be totally honest. This is... so for those of you who don't know, this is what the yokai shift was. You would pretty much go from... it's this same switch. My back button is fucked up. I gotta get a new keyboard. But you see how he... wait, hold on. You see how he's... oh my fucking gosh. Okay.
Already at least passively familiar with Japanese history. Like I said, it's more...
you see how he switches from this, like a normal looking dude, to...
for people who already know it, rather than some...
it's like he would switch from that normal looking dude, but he would turn into one of these guys. So there's 3 of them, right? Let me see if I can get them all in one go. Alright, what I'll do, I'll just get rid of this. And then I'll just do this. It should show, it usually shows all three. Okay, here it is. So these are the three. This is a brute, this is a speedster, and this is like a magician, pretty much. And this is them up close. They have the male and female versions, I'm pretty sure. These are the male versions right here, and then these are the female versions, as you can tell from the breasts. But that's pretty much that. Pretty cool. Personally, my favorite, I like the speed type. I always thought that the brute was cool as fuck though, but in terms of just pure looks, I think the speed type was dope. Let me see if I can get a better picture for it. But yeah, ultimately, based on what I've been seeing, oh, this is a really good picture right here. Yeah, but I think, yeah, my computer's not on. I think I'm just gonna get the game. You guys let me know. Well, no, not think. I'm going to get the game, but whether you guys want to see me play it or not, you let me know. I'm playing Nier Automata right now, but I'm thinking I'm just gonna play both of them at the same time because I really don't care. Honestly, I think I'd probably play Nioh 3 more. Like, I'd probably play Nioh 3, like, I'd probably upload, like, 2 videos a week for it. And then Nier, I'd probably upload, like, 1 video a week for that. Maybe 1 video every other week, especially because, again, this game is newer. And just probably flows better, too. But, again, that's all up for debate. We'll see. But, hey, that's pretty much my reaction. So, y'all let me know what y'all think. Appreciate you all. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.